What's up, everybody? This is the Fantasy Baseball Show, and I'm your host, Sean Nugent. First video of the year, and unfortunately, it's catching. What else can I say about this position just being not fun at all? Why people still play in two-catcher leagues and why it's the norm is beyond me. Looking down the list, there's only 3 catchers projected to get more than 300 plate appearances, according to Steamer. Darno is right behind that at 495. It's just an abysmal position. I have no interest in catching, if I'm really being honest. Last year was my shortest video by far. There's just, to me, it's catching is a lot like football because there's so much randomness and there's just a volume crunch and so much ambiguity when it comes to the at-bats and even the players themselves are very volatile. There's just, you have a way smaller sample size. It feels like a way smaller pool of catching compared to other positions. It just feels like there's way more volatility within catching every year. I look at 2 years ago, Mitch Garver, and then look at last year, he was absolutely nothing. Or maybe that was 2019 and 2020 he really didn't do much, but there's so many guys like that have a flash in the pan and they don't get the at-bats again or they just can't produce it again. So it's a hard position. My general philosophy on catching is usually not to draft a catcher really high and is to wait, but that's usually in single catcher leagues. I do think I flip-flop a lot. Last year I definitely said that in 2-catcher leagues you just have to go with a tandem. You can't go with a tandem in 2-catcher leagues. Like, let's say you go with Alejandro Kirk and Danny Jansen, the guys in the Blue Jays. How's that going to help your team? It's not. You're limiting your at-bats without a doubt right there. Perez is going at pick 33, Romero 55, Will Smith 67, Varsho 100, which is a little rich for my blood, and Grandal at 108. So let's get off with Perez. He had a great year last year, 48 home runs. There's no way I'm touching him at pick 33. Even Romero, after his best years, I don't think he went at pick 33. Last year, Salvador Perez, with the 48 home runs, had a 316 on base percentage. 273 average was nice. K percentage was up to 26%. So there's too much risk in that profile for me to want to draft him 33. I think that's a guy I do not draft list. I'm sure he'll have a great season, but I'm not aiming for my catcher right there. Romero 55 is, I think, a little later than he's usually been, or around where he's usually been in. And the biggest thing with Romero is the steals. They have been decreasing. The runs and RBIs really for Romero are kind of 5th best at the position. Looking at last year's stats, he couldn't eclipse 70 runs. He had 74 RBIs, only 21 homers, and that's in 550 plate appearances. I'm not really too rich on Romero either this year. And Will Smith at 67 too. There's still at-bats concerns. National League, I don't think is going to get the DH because we got fooled in that last year. Even besides the whole lockout thing, I don't even know which side wants the DH more. Obviously, the owners have the leverage, but I don't even know who wants the DH more. For the owners, it gives more home runs to the game. I think both sides would want that. So I don't even know how that gets bargained because neither side has leverage to negotiate with that. It's kind of just a given, I guess. I don't know. The lockout thing could be a whole episode on itself. You kind of have to when looking at the fantasy season, there's really no point in even worrying about the lockout and how it would affect it because it's going to affect everyone equally. You could argue pitching will affect more, but I don't really believe that theory. So I guess you could tell by the way I'm talking, catching is just it's a scary position. I'll say what I am liking. I am liking Grandal at 108 and Contreras at 115. Contreras didn't get talked about a lot. I get why. Batted 239. His on base was still decent for that average of 334. Only 19 home runs. Could not eclipse 60 runs and RBIs. So the Contreras hate is obvious. He's going almost 100 picks later than Salvi though, and you just can't really knock that. You can't really they're both gonna have similar years most likely. Salvi definitely had his career year unless he hits 50 home runs next year, but the guy that I'm really targeting this year, it seems like, and I've yet to do any drafts yet. I am waiting a little later than last year just because I think I did one in November or December last year, and for me at least, when you do a draft that early, you kind of forget about the team and a lot of the guys you like. You kind of your taste changes, and you're like, I don't really like how I did that, and signings, and I think that's why it's going to be hard this year to really get engaged in draft season, is because there's so many free agents left to sign. There's so many trades yet to happen with this lockout going on that it's definitely tempering my enthusiasm. I'm sure there's people that's tempering your enthusiasm for the sport. This is a lot of us. If you're listening to this video and if you're watching other podcasts or you're listening to other stuff, fantasy baseball and baseball in general is one of our favorite things. It's one of our favorite entertainment. It's entertainment, it's stats, it's a game, it's betting, it's a lot of things for a lot of different people. And the fact that I'm more pro players and pro owners, but I get hate on. You want to hate on both sides, because if both sides do not come to an agreement before the basically pitchers and catchers in a month, if they don't come to agreement by then who's getting hurt? They're not getting hurt. Neither side's getting hurt. We're getting hurt. The fan is getting hurt, and it's a little irritating that we're charity share, battling this fight, and the fan is powerless. All we can vote with is our dollar, and fans will continue to show up. But I don't even know how I got started on that lockout tangent. Oh, with the drafts. Yeah, it's kind of hard to get excited about these drafts, and catching especially is a position where, if a team trades for a catcher, that means the other catcher is useless. You can't move a catcher to second base, like with shortstop, second base, or third baseman, or first, or left, or right. Once a team has a catcher, that's their primary catcher. There's no shuffling a catcher around. He's a catcher for a reason. He's kind of a pigeonholed. So that's obviously something you have to keep in mind when doing these drafts, and it really does make getting a hand on this position harder than usual. That being said, I do like Grandal's value going at 108. Tyler Stevenson for Cincinnati at 155 is someone I'll probably get into. A decent year last year, 13 home runs, 50 RBIs, 342 on base, only a 424 slug. You got to pick your poison with these catchers. It's a really rough one. After him is Kerbert Ruiz. I'm sure he'll be very popular. He'll probably climb off draft boards. Not a lot you can look at from last year, but what do we have for his steamer projections? Kerbert Ruiz, they have him getting 16 home runs, 45 runs, 55 RBI. So really, that's what you're going to see for most of these guys. If you look at steamer, Danny Jansen, 15 home runs, McCann, 11, Gary Sanchez, 20, Rutschman, 15. Not really a lot of depth and options. And it's kind of odd the way the NFBC data, ADP data is shaken out, because NFBC, for those that know and don't know, is considered like the big money. They have the $1,000 leagues, big money goes into it, more than $1,000. Really, the elite, the most savvy fantasy players. It's not ESPN, it's not Yahoo. It has a recognition behind it, a name brand, and because the drafters are the most, they say the most serious and experienced drafters, and they probably are. But looking at the ADP data right now, you have Zunino at 256, Murphy at 251, Yadier at 278, James McCann at 323, Austin Nola at 344. To me, if I can get Zunino at 250 and Darno at 200, even Garver at 211, Christian Vasquez, I do think the Red Sox are getting another catcher. I don't see him on the draft board. I think they called someone up. But even Vasquez, after he lost a little bit of power last year at 211, it does seem like people are getting a little too excited over Perez's 46 or 45 home run season. And then they're not realizing how volatile the position is. I think Realmuto is, when it comes to stability in a floor, Realmuto has a safer floor without a doubt. Same with Will Smith. It's not like Perez getting steals. You can find power late. You can't find steals late. So that brings up Dalton Varsho. Okay, Dalton Varsho is a very, very polarizing figure. Within my own thoughts, I was really high on him when he was a prospect. I can't say I have the same enthusiasm I used to have. Steamer has him getting 8 stolen bases, 16 home runs, 49 runs, 54 RBI, with a 323 on base and a 253 average. Not bad for a catcher. I do think they're low on the at-bats at 420. I think the reason people are drafting Dalton Varsho, and maybe the Steamer projections are plate appearances at that position, I think the reason people are drafting Varsho is because he also plays center field and outfield. So he should easily eclipse 50 plate appearances, health being considered, on that Diamondbacks team with not a lot of competition. Cole Calhoun is going to the Rangers, so he's not with that team anymore. Really interesting that Varsho is going that early, considering last year 246 average, 318 on base. He did have 6 steals and about 315 plate appearances, only 11 home runs. If you double those, which would be 630 at bats, which he's not going to get. So let's say you add 20 to the runs, 20 to the RBIs, you're looking at a 60-60 and maybe a 10 stolen base guy. It's not bad. I could see the height Varsho is getting. At a pick 100, I'd rather have Varsho than Perez without a doubt. But even then, this position, Adley Rutschman at 193, and I'm sure he's going to go earlier and earlier. He's not coming up. I cannot see him starting this season on the Orioles. Of course, it's a great ballpark, but it would be a little silly. And I'm saying this, they probably will do it, but it would not make a lot of sense calling him up. I think I've evolved in the way that I view the sport, and I understand service time manipulation, and obviously that's going to be a point of contention in the CBA negotiations that hopefully end up being resolved soon. But I understand the hype for Rutschman, and I understand people are excited. At 193, you're not really paying a premium for it. But compared to a guy like Darno going 7 picks later, who is going to be starting opening day, getting the bulk of the at-bats, he's splitting it with Contreras' brother, I think William Contreras, I believe. I'm not positive, but Wilson Contreras' brother is coming up for the Brewers. He played, Braves a little bit for last year he played. But Darno's getting the bulk of those at-bats. Vasquez getting the bulk of the at-bats, and Garver's getting the bulk of the at-bats. They released Astudillo on Minnesota. So those 3 guys going, 10, 20 picks after Rutschman are guaranteed starting guys. And opening day, they're going to be playing. And it's not a prospect league. And I think maybe that's something I noticed on myself. Last year was my first year I did Dynasty. And I do think playing a Dynasty league helps you a lot in the player pool, and I guess in waivers a little bit, but I really don't think it helps in waivers, because for every prospect that comes up and becomes Juan Soto, who really wasn't even a huge prospect, there's 2 or 3 Jared Kellenics. There's guys that come up, or a Joey Bart going at 272. There's guys that come up, it takes him a year or two. Even Mike Trout struggled in his first cup of coffee in the major leagues. So, I have trepidation with Rutschman a lot. I think that's kind of a common talk. But as I always like to say is that the only thing that matters is where you get him. If you're getting Rutschman at 250, I'm fine with that. But you're drafting Rutschman at 193 when you most likely in a 15-teamer, you definitely still have starting positions to fill. You got to be filling your middle infield or your corner infield or an outfield spot. You can't draft a guy who's might not be up for 2 months or might not be up the whole year before you have your starting lineup filled. And that gets me on to guys like Sean Murphy and Mike Zunino, who have shown they have 30, even 40 home run power in those bats, or can even DH for their team sometimes because the power's there so much. Better than on base percentage league, they don't hit for an average really at all. But going 50 picks after Rutschman and going 150 picks or 200 picks after Perez and Realmuto, Zunino had a great year last year. I think it gets overlooked a lot, but 33 home runs in 375 plate appearances, which this is a remarkable statistic right here. In 375 plate appearances, Zunino had 33 home runs. 33 home runs in basically, 60% of a season. Average was an abysmal 216, abysmal 301 on base. But the counting stats are there, and you could take that hitting batting average for those counting stats out of the catching position. I'll kind of do that all day with Zunino. I'm kind of liking that a lot. Murphy as well is a guy you got to dig in on a little bit. His StatCast numbers I was looking at, nothing crazy. Doesn't really hit the ball that hard. He has some stuff. I do think that ballpark hurts him a lot. If he got traded, the Oakland Athletics do have a big catching prospect. I think Strotostorm. If Murphy got traded, I don't think you're getting a worse ballpark than the Coliseum in Oakland. I think it seems like they're trying to reload because they're moving to Vegas or it doesn't seem like that team's moving. So if Murphy gets traded, either midseason, whatever, that's a guy that can really increase his value. I don't know what big teams are really, big playoff teams are making a push at catcher. They all seem to kind of have a guy. I guess Yankees could use a guy. I mean, they could use a couple guys because Gary Sanchez is simply not cutting it. Sanchez defensively, he has huge woes. He did have 23 homers last year with again abysmal on base of 307, 204 batting average. 23 home runs is great from catcher, but he's losing time to Higashioka, and the Yankees are really not sure what they're going to do. They're not going to DFA him. It was too late for that. They're definitely not doing that. But he's losing at bats year by year, and rightly so, because defense does matter. Probably more catching than any other position, with the exception of maybe shortstop, but I'm not even sure about that. Catching is the captain of the field. That's why guys like Yadier Molina are so revered, and even if their on the field stats don't make them a Hall of Famer, they're off the intangibles. They work with pitchers, where they work in the clubhouse. It makes them who they are. And Sanchez is the opposite of Yadier Molina when it comes to the intangibles. He seems like he has low energy, all that. He's not a guy I would be willing to draft, because I'm so scared of the Yankees just releasing him out of not spite, but out of just, you can't have a lazy guy catching your team. And he can't be a DH. That team has too many DH types. And he's a 308 on base. It's not like we're talking about Yasmani Grandal, who is a great pitcher, but he has a 420 on base. Sanchez could be lazy if he was getting on base at a 42% clip. He's not doing that, though. Joey Bart at pick 272 is really a little weird. I guess maybe it's only gonna move up because of unfortunately Buster Posey is not coming back. He retired abruptly. Steamers has Joey Bart with 9 home runs, 32 runs, 38 RBI, with a 285 on base and a 368 slug. So Steamer's not hiring him. I think he's better than that. But again, I do think if Giants actually got someone, don't quote me on that. I thought I seen that they got someone. It's weird with the movement with some of these teams that they get stopgate guys, like Perez gets moved around a lot. So Bart, that's kind of the main point I'm seeing. We're at Bart's catcher 18 off the board. If you're in a 15-team 2-catcher league, you can't have Bart being your starting catcher. You can't have Sanchez being your starting catcher. The best thing you could probably do is double tap Murphy and Zunino and call it a day. I think that, if I can get away with that, double tap Murphy Zunino at 251 and 256, if I get on the turn on the snake. And obviously, catchers are like relievers in the way that there's a run on them. So once you draft Murphy, you think you might get cute and be able to wait another turn for Zunino. It's not going to happen. Once Murphy goes off the board, Zunino's going within the next 10 picks or even less, depending on who doesn't have a catcher yet. That's probably going to be my go-to strategy as of now is Murphy Zunino, double team that. So if you're looking, you got to put in context. In a single team catcher league, it's really kind of pick your favorite. I like Darno in a single team. I like Contreras. Like I said, I like Grandal. But in a double catcher league, I think it's more like, don't go for one of those high end or mid end guy. Go for the lower mid end, and kind of save yourself the draft capital. Catcher 30 off the board is Luis Torrens. Right after him is Francisco Mejia, who's going at 396. Torrens at 393. Barnhart at 384. It's really a rough position. Yan Gomes at 347. Yan Gomes should not be on your team, guys. Like this is what I'm saying. These 2-catcher leagues are rough. James McCann, I don't really believe in a bounce back. 323 is going at. Let's see what James McCann was able to produce last year with his first year with my New York Mets. 412 plate appearances, which is decent for a catcher. Only 10 home runs, 29 runs, 46 RBI. The RBI is not bad. I'm kind of surprised he had that many considering the runs. A 294 on base and a 232 average with a 349 slug. Just a horrible year. 117 ISO, one of the worst within the he's 19th on the Steamer projections, catching wise, on RBI, and he has the second lowest ISO out of all those guys. Mike Zunino has a 342 ISO. Will Smith 237. Salvi 271. Contreras 201. What do you think Steamer thinks of guys like Sean Murphy? I guess they don't think too high of him, which is odd considering. So they think that Sean Murphy's only gonna have a 306 on base, only a 188 ISO. So I'll take the over on that. Definitely any day. One guy I find it very interesting, and I think you could replace him with Murphy or Zanino, because I think catching what you're really just looking for is power. I'm not looking for batting average. That's kind of why I soured on Romito a little bit, because he doesn't seem like he's going to hit 30 ever again, which is, I know it's a little ridiculous to say, but the pop just doesn't seem to be the same. I'm sure he could do it, but, he's not a Zanino and Murphy when it comes to raw power. He's more of a batting average oriented guy. Elias Diaz on the Colorado Rockies. 18 home runs last year, 52 run, 44 RBI. The reason I'm liking what I'm seeing right here, been in the major leagues for 5 years. He got his first chance at a full-time, maybe not full-time, but a starting catching position in 2019 with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Only hit 2 home runs. 2 home runs with the Pirates, 296 on base. Then his next chance was last year with the Rockies. He had 18 homers. He increased his walk rate by 2%. Same strike rate at 16%, which is it's a pretty good strikeout rate. I was expecting a Zanino type 30%. He doesn't strike out a lot. He plays in Colorado too, and there's really not that much competition for that catching good job in Colorado. So he'll give you 20 home runs, 50-50 RBI and runs, going at pick 273, and what's kind of weird if you really look at how this is going is you have Dalton Varsho, who's probably going to get you 50 runs, 50 RBIs, maybe 20 home runs and 10 steals, going 100, 200 picks earlier. Don't die on the Varsho hill and the Romito hill of getting those 10 steals. I think Varsho could probably steal 20, maybe. It's just not really a likely outcome, and Romito seems to be done stealing like that. He's 33 years old, I think 32 years old. So Elias Diaz on the Colorado Rockies going right after Joey Bart. So I like Diaz a lot better and going right before Yadier Molina. Eric Haas is an interesting guy on the Detroit Tigers. I don't believe there's really too much catching. I could get me wrong. I got to check their depth chart, but he really proved himself last year. Again, not a great on base percentage or nothing. A 286 on base. This position is rough. I'm looking at last year's on base guys for catchers. This is a hard position to even give a shit about. It's brutal. Okay, so you got, besides guys that only got 100 thing, Romito was like the 5th best with a 343 on base at this position. Contreras at 340, which considering the view on Contreras, the 340 is pretty good, and that just tells me Contreras is a guy to buy in on. I think the one thing, and I'll repeat this in all my videos, it's kind of the biggest, I don't want to say philosophy, but tip or thing to keep in mind when doing drafts is think about where guys were going last year and think about how much higher or lower they're going this year. These guys are all great players. They're not all great players, but they're all freaking good players in the major leagues. And things have tended to equal out. So Salvi was not going at 33 last year. And Contreras is probably going around 115, maybe a little earlier. And what I'm saying is you don't draft a guy after he probably had his career year in Salvi. And you want to draft a guy after he probably had his career worst. Just compare the year he had to his career averages and see how old he is. And if he's only 28, 29 years old, then he has a good chance of bouncing back to where he was at. I really missed my shot. I really, fumbled the bag when it comes to Francisco Mejia and Jorge Alfaro. I was really big on them. I thought they were going to be huge breakouts. And Alfaro got traded from the Miami Marlins to the San Diego Padres. So that does hurt Nola's stock. I get that. I would be interested in maybe grabbing one of them as my second catcher if I spend a high pick on another guy. No, Austin Nola and Jorge Alfaro. I think Alfaro does have the skill, the speed. Mejia, though, is a guy I just can't understand. He was amazing in the minors. I remember, I think it was a 2016 trade deadline or maybe 2015. The Indians traded him away for a good package. And I was so hyped. Switch hitting catcher, hit first. I thought this guy was going to be the next freaking guy. Like we haven't really had an amazing catcher consistently. Obviously, since Buster Posey, and you could say Yadier Molina and even Salvador Perez. I don't put Perez in that book. He hasn't done it consistently. And Yadier Molina, he's not the kind of hitter that Posey was. Realmuto is the closest thing when it comes to the defense and offense and having a good bat. But he never had the season Posey had with the bat. I thought Mejia was like, oh, this guy's going to be the next, the guy that was with the Minnesota for a while, Mauer, the next Joe Mauer. He's quickly fading away into obscurity, which is annoying to see. He's still with Tampa Bay. He got pushed out of the position, obviously, by Mike Zeno, but Mejia was with the Padres. That's funny enough, and Alfaro just got traded to the Padres, so a little Florida action of San Diego going there. But Mejia's a guy I liked. I still think he could figure out one day. He's the 31st catcher taken off the board, so if you want him to be the last catcher you draft in Alfaro at 32, you may do that. But that's sad. Thinking about a two-catcher league, you're going to have to start Mejia and Alfaro, man. This is rough. Yan Gomes, bro. Danny Jansen, James McCann, Max Stassi. This position is just I don't really know what else to say besides don't play two-catcher leagues, really. If someone could tell me below why they think two-catcher leagues are superior to one-catcher leagues, I get that. This is what I get, that we have a middle infielder and a corner infielder when we play fantasy baseball with 15-team leagues, but it doesn't work the same because catching's already, like, every team has a guy that's starting third base, 600 plate appearances if he doesn't get hurt. No team has a catcher that's starting 600 plate appearances. So the position's inherently volatile. It's inherently, you can't hope for really any more than 60 runs and RBIs, and that's on the high side. That's what Grandal had last year in 375 plate appearances. I know he got hurt. 60 runs, 60 RBIs, as great as everyone said Posey did. He had 454, which is kind of the peak of what you can expect, or maybe 500 in Will Smith. Will Smith, 25 home runs, 71 runs, 76 RBI. He's probably I think he's the best hitting catcher in the league right now. Perez doesn't have the on base there, and I think he's a lot riskier. Will Smith is in my opinion the best hitting catcher in the league. I don't know how good his defense is, so he's the best he's the best fantasy catcher if you don't care about steals. Maybe Varsho could pass him with a 20 stolen base season, but Smith is where it's at. And even then, in the amazing year that Smith had last year, he couldn't even hit 75 runs, couldn't hit 80 RBI, couldn't even hit 30 home runs. And as great as he was at 365 on base, yeah, it's good. A 258 average, it's fine. It's nothing crazy. You got to really get the production, the aggregate, and beyond all, with catching, you got to hit the waiver wire. And I'll close the video out by just saying I do want to do videos this year where videos and podcasts where I'm going the waiver wire, doing discussing players that are struggling, discussing trade possibilities, buy high, sell low, buy high. And I definitely want to live stream. Once I start doing redrafts, I definitely want to live stream them. It's a little annoying because a lot of the drafts now, once you go on Fantrax or NFBC, it's these 2, 3 hour, 4 hour draft, turn slow drafts. I did an auction last year. It took like 7 hours. I had a blast. I came in second in the league, but it was the funnest draft I've ever done. I was sitting in my room, I think from 8 o'clock to 2 in the morning or maybe 1 in the morning. I was the first one to use all my money. And live streaming something like that would be amazing. If you guys, talk to you guys in the comments, talk about what we want to do. Live draft, basic redrafts. If anyone can let me know where we can do redrafts that don't have 2 hour clocks. Like, can I do a redraft with just like a 3 minute clock or a 4 or 5 minute clock? Because the more I get into the fantasy and the more money I put in these leagues, I get that it's, if you're putting $100 on, you want to be able to make sure you make the pick, but the draft's not nearly as fun when it's going on over, there's a pause at 9 o'clock and resume at 9 a.m. and it's like the draft's taking a week or 2 weeks. I want to sit down and do a draft. And that auction, you have to do it like that. You can't have a pause on an auction. Well, you could, but maybe it's probably smart. But it's, you don't know if you're going to be free that next day. So if anyone could let me know, preferably with money. I don't really like to do free leagues anymore because I don't, even if it's just $10, I'm not saying it got to be a big thing, but just having some skin in the game helps you stay focused in the league. You want to check it. Anyone knows where we could do something like that? I know ESPN, Yahoo, I don't really mess with because they don't give a good payout percentage. Fantrax is giving like 92% payout. A lot of these sites, it's kind of predatory. You'll interact with people that are forming leagues, and you do the math on the money you're investing in the payout scheme, and they're taking like a 40% cut of the league fees. Man, if you're not getting, if a commissioner, someone's taking a 40% cut, or the service user taking a 45% cut, 50% cut, I'm never doing something like that. You can't. If the total money that the people are contributing equals $1,000, and the total payouts only equals $600, dude, that's stealing money right there. I'm not doing nothing like that. That's why really the best thing you could do is get buddies together, get some guys in the internet together, and you know what? I've met some people in the community that they'll act as like a commissioner, and I just don't know how much a commissioner really deserves cut wise. If you're a commissioner, I get you have to like make a group chat and you have to enforce rules, but bro, some of these commissioners are getting paid $100, $200. You're playing a league. You're playing a fantasy baseball league. Get some buddies together, and the commissioner don't gotta make no money, man. If you like playing fantasy, If the commissioner's a good player, he's gonna win some of that money. He's gonna be in the money. So that goes into my next thing, where I definitely want to make a league. I had one guy reach out to me on Twitter. I want to pull his name up real quick, give him a shout out. Twitter is the best place to reach me. I do have an email and an Instagram, but Twitter, I'm on Twitter the most. Zach Miller, bro. Thanks for reaching out to me. I'm definitely trying to get a league together with you. You hit me up about a league. I said I'll let you know. But I want to get a league together with you guys. We can do a 15-teamer, preferably Roto, but I'm really down for whatever. We'll, hit me up on Twitter. If I get enough guys to hit me up, I'll make a group chat with everyone. We'll talk about what kind of league we want to do, what kind of drafts, 15-team, 12-team, auction, snake, all that stuff, man. Want to play with you guys. We'll call it the Fantasy Baseball League or whatever you guys want to call it, but that'd be pretty dope. So hit me up on Twitter. I'm always there. I want you guys to let me know. You guys got to help me out with catching, man. This position to me is a total blind spot. It's a total shit show. Let me know in the comments. Hit me up on Twitter. Who do you think the best catcher is? But more importantly, and this is what I always try to focus on, like a teacher, man. I'm trying to teach something to myself. These videos help me. I've definitely become a better fantasy player making these videos, looking at the ADPs, looking at the stats, talking to you guys to feed my own biases. Let me know who you think the best value is. Go on NFBC, look at the ADP data. Go on Fantrax, look at the ADP data. What catcher at that draft pick, or what catching tandem? What double tap? What two guys? What one guy do you think is the best value for you getting them? Tell me who you think is going to steal the most bases. This position to me is just a crapshoot. That's it for today, guys. First base will be the next episode. I'm trying to get these position videos done week by week. Hopefully the season starts, end of March, early April. Fingers crossed. Lockout's gonna happen, but fantasy baseball will keep rolling, man. That's it. Thanks for listening, guys. Like I said, hit me up on Twitter. You can like, comment, subscribe. Definitely comment, but if you don't like the video, don't like it. Give me a dislike. Feedback's always good. That's it. Have a good one, guys.